Hi everyone! Last month you might have noticed I didn't get around to doing a book review video, and quite simply I just have not had the time. I'll get a little bit more into why that is at the end of this video, but for now I wanted to do something relating to books in the month of December. You know, the holidays are coming up, we all have a little bit of extra time off, maybe you're looking for stuff to read in your free time, if you hopefully have any during the holiday season. I'm going to go ahead and share some of the books that I found pretty inspiring. One quick note though, I found while I was thinking about the books that I found personally so inspiring, I realized a lot of them were actually just art history books, and I'm going to get into why that is and why there's some books that I actually don't find that inspiring that many people bring up in terms of, you know, picking up a book if you want to motivate yourself a little bit extra. So I'm going to get into all of that. Let's go ahead and get started with my number one recommendation. My number one recommended book is Peak. Now, this book was recommended to me by Patrick Okersinski, and if you found my channel, then chances are you've seen his channel because it's much bigger and he's posted some really wonderful videos. But he recommended this book to me when I was a first-year student at the Florence Academy of Art, US, and he was a fourth-year student at the same school. And so I'm really grateful that he did, because this has been by far the most motivating and inspiring book that I've read. Funny thing is, actually doesn't relate to art at all. It relates to the practice and science of how we learn. And I really took away the points in the book that were talking about applied practice. So how just putting in hours doesn't always actually lead to improvement. Like, why, if you're showing up day after day, are you not improving? And one of the things the book talks about is how important applied practice is. So I really, really recommend this if you're looking to, you know, amp up your practice and figure out how you can practice whatever it is, whether it be art, music, anything that's a mental practice. If you want to get better at it, I really, really recommend this book. I think that it's very motivating, it's very inspiring. I think that it gives really important takeaways for how we can be the most efficient in how we are learning and understanding things. And so for this, I have to recommend it. If you want to know what Patrick thinks about it, you're going to have to take a class with him. But I am grateful that he recommended this book to me, because genuinely, number one pick. Read this if you're not going to read any other book and you want to do art. At least read this one. So the next books I'll recommend are these. These are Austen Kleon books. Most of you probably heard about this. They are very, very short reads. Like, they are tiny books, big print. They're not like heavy reading books. They're very much more of like a flip through kind of book. But they've been really good, and I think that they give just very pragmatic, practical advice. They are a little bit pamphlet books, as one of my friends calls them. You know, you flip through them like a pamphlet, you read like the highlights, which is essentially all they are. And I do think it can be really motivating. It's not the most groundbreaking, it's not going to tell you anything that you probably don't already know, but it does help to just give that extra little boost if you need one. The next book I'm going to recommend is Daily Rituals, and I'll have a picture on the screen here, and I apologize I don't remember all of the authors' names, but all the information will be on the screen and in the description. But this book is really wonderful. It just talks about artist routines. You know, this person's done a lot of research into writers, painters, poets, any kind of artist you can imagine. I thought it was really motivating and really inspiring just to kind of get that insight into how another artist is working, or just how a creator is working. You know, it's really fascinating, and it's not maybe the most traditional book for art inspiration, but I did actually find it, you know, really interesting and motivating, and it's another book that you can kind of pick up, put down. It's not very heavy. You can even skip to the people that you like the most and bypass the people that you're not that interested in. So I really recommend that one as well. This next book is going to be a little bit of a transition into art history books, but hear me out. When I'm looking for inspiration, I do often look to, you know, my favorite painters, and anytime I can find information about them or how they worked, it is really inspiring and motivating. And one of those painters is Marie Bashkirtseff. So I really love Marie Bashkirtseff's work. Obviously she didn't produce very much, she died very young, but she actually was like amazing at writing, and she wrote and wrote and wrote in her diary, and she has like, I think it's over 1,000 pages of diary entries from her lifetime, her very short lifetime. and someone has written a book about it, and it is called The Portrait of a Young Genius. Now, this book is incredible as well. I wish I had my copy somewhere. I can't find it right now. I might have gotten rid of it, but it was a very amazing book, and I hope I didn't get rid of it because I'll probably reread it again. This book is written by a guy who's actually, I think his field of work is actually mathematics. I don't even think he's an art historian, but he was so intrigued by her and found her story so captivating that he just was compelled to write a book about her. And I'm really glad he did, because it reads as a book that was written by somebody really passionate. It doesn't read as like a heavy art history book where the person is just trying to check off points and dates and times that they have to because they're an art historian and it's their field to know all this stuff. It reads like it was written by somebody who was just passionate and excited. And at the same time, it's very well researched, it's really interesting, and getting a look into Marie Bashkirtseff's life and, you know, her struggles, her insecurities, her goals is really fascinating. And because so much of the source material comes from Marie Bashkirtseff herself, it's just really, really motivating to me to read. Now, if you're not particularly interested in Marie Bashkirtseff's work, then I do encourage you to look up stuff about your favorite artists and read stuff about them, because it has been one of the things that I've personally found the most inspiring whenever I need that extra boost to get back into my studio. Along the same lines, there is this book, and I don't even really know if it has a title, so I'm just going to pop a picture on the screen, but the long story short of it is it's free on Google Books. It's an old historic book. You can find it probably on Internet Archive, all these things. And it's really fascinating. It's about Jules Bastien Lepage, and it's stuff that was written about him by friends, critics, all this different people after he died. He's another artist that died very young. I think he was only 28 when he died, which, given what he accomplished, is pretty remarkable. So he's a pretty remarkable character in general. I do find reading about him very inspiring, and this particular collection of writings on him is very interesting. That being said, quick thing about this, there is one thing written in here that was just a critic that was angry and hated his work and so decided to bash him after he died. I don't really understand the point of that, don't know why it's included. I skipped that particular little essay. The ones that I found inspiring and motivating were actually ones written by his friends. So there was one story about how Lepage was, if you would go on a walk with him, he was the slowest walker ever, because he would stop and draw, and he would draw everything, and he would draw every detail of everything, because he wanted to be able to draw everything and then choose what he wanted to leave out. And those little anecdotes, again, are just really inspiring and motivating. It kind of just resets your brain into thinking about how an artist that you admire might be thinking and what can you take away from that person. And so I found it really, really inspiring and really interesting. That being said, of course, it was written a long time ago. It's not the easiest read, but I did find it really inspiring. If you don't like Lepage, skip it. It's not for you. But if you do like his work and reading about him would be motivating and inspiring, then I do recommend that you check it out. Now, back into more traditionally inspiring books, I have this one. This is called Letters to a Young Poet. It is the correspondence between Raina Marie Rilke, I butchered that pronunciation, I apologize, and Franz Xavier Capus. And what's particularly great about this copy in particular is it is both sides of the conversation. So it's Franz Capus's letters and then Rilke's responses. So most of the books that talk about letters to a young poet, most of the books that say they're letters to a young poet, it just has Rilke's side. And the dialogue is what I think is really inspiring and fascinating. It feels incredibly modern when you read it. Like, it feels like you could be reading an email exchange almost. Like, it feels very current and today in terms of the stuff that Rilke is saying and the bits of advice that he's giving this young artist that's looking up to him. And of course they were both writers, so it's not exactly painting, but even still, it's just incredibly motivating. And I do think that reading, you know, kind of the young, hopeful poets' letters and then Rilke's responses are just really beautiful. And the fact that these have been preserved over time and that we can now read them and, you know, take what we can from their conversations is really, really interesting. Okay, so the next category is going to be kind of honorable mentions, and I'm going to be completely candid with you guys. The books that I've put in honorable mentions I've not read all the way through because I didn't personally find them very inspiring, but I want to include them because so many people in my circle and in my community have found them inspiring, and so it seems silly to not include them. But I'm going to talk about first why I don't find them that inspiring. So the first is The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. I feel most guilty about not connecting with this one personally. I don't personally connect to his work in general. I think his paintings are interesting, but they're not my favorite. This is all Robert Henry's own writings, and I will be completely upfront with you guys and say that whenever I read this book for the first time, all I could think was, this is the artist's version of Chicken Soup for the Soul. I don't know if any of you guys remember that line of books, but I was given a copy of one of those books as a teenager, and I was just like, why is it talking down to me like I'm 5? I found it so patronizing and so obnoxious, and so as my angsty teenage self, I really didn't like that book, and unfortunately some of those feelings I think have been carried with me, where some of the stuff in this book I'm just like, okay, Robert Henry. And while I fully understand that that is just my perspective, it is completely a personal opinion, and it has in no way an actual bearing on the quality of this book or its contents. I thought I'd let you guys know because maybe I'm not alone out there and maybe somebody else has tried to connect to this book and just hasn't been able to. That being said, there are people I know that have connected with it, that have found it very inspiring, and so I do want to include it. If you haven't heard about it, give it a try. I have given it multiple tries. It's going to continue to sit on my shelf, and I'll keep trying. Maybe one day I'll understand the draw. The next book I don't have a physical copy of because I really, really didn't like it, and that is Mastery by Robert Greene. Now, if Mastery is helpful for you, awesome. Read it, love it, cherish it, take all the lessons you can. Personally, I really don't like Robert Greene's writing style. I don't find him helpful. I feel like the equivalent of his books is like a poster with one of those cats and saying, hang in there. It's like, it just feels like he says very obvious things, but he says them in a way where he's like, no, 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 trust me. I'm smart. You should listen to me. And maybe if I wanted to get put on the board of a fashion apparel company that is going to later have a bunch of allegations brought up against it, maybe I'd find Robert Greene helpful. For now, I don't think he's mastered anything that I'm interested in mastering, so I don't recommend him. I have to put him in honorable mentions because he was brought up so many times while I was in school and everybody told me to read it, and I tried and I didn't like it. But if they help you, and that's all that matters, because at the end of the day, we're really just trying to read stuff that gets us in the studio and that motivates us personally, and what motivates me might not be what motivates you, which is kind of why I wanted to do this video in general, because I wanted to bring up some books that maybe people haven't thought of as being inspiring or motivating, and talk about why I did find them personally inspiring and motivating, and which ones I didn't and why. So hopefully this encourages you to try all the books and, you know, try and see which books you connect with and which books when you pick up do you feel like, this book, I've read this book and now I just want to go and run into the studio and paint and improve and, you know, pursue my passion. That's all you need to really take away at the end of the day. Whatever you find inspiring is awesome, and it doesn't matter what anybody else's opinions are on those books. All that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and if there's any books that you found really inspiring that you'd like to share, just leave them below in the comments, and I will see you for the next video.